There's several cases through 50 years where we could have easily not been here anymore. And I think the reason we are is because we haven't been thinking short term, we've been thinking long term. And by long term, I mean eternity focused.
You have to understand the 70s, Christian schools were thought of as subpar and everything else. So suddenly we have these men and women that want to have a Christian education for their children. They brought in Elliot Higby, who had a PhD in education.
Shortly after, we brought on Shirley Liebold to help run the school.
She was our superintendent, but she also taught. I don't know which one you'd count as the most important. Shirley because of her personality, or Elliot because of the wisdom that he had in education.
During our first 3 years, SCA was hosted on the original campus of Scottsdale Bible Church.
We taught the main subjects in the main auditorium. I still remember out on the parking lot when we had PE, Archie Wright and I would coach football out there or whatever other sport we would play, soccer, and they oiled the parking lot to keep the dust down. I could still smell the oil on the parking lot.
Money was always a problem. I can remember Carl Pates, who was our superintendent at the time. He would call a meeting on Thursday or so, and he'd say, I got payroll Monday morning and I don't have any money. All of these guys that were on the board would go around and say, I'll give $5,000, I'll give $3,000, until he had enough.
They would go to the bank, sign their names, and get the money to make it work.
That happened more than once.
As we continued to grow, it became apparent that we needed a new home.
SCA was exploding in growth.
I mean, the boys' band was practicing in the boys' bathroom, that kind of thing.
So several of the guys bought a church at 82nd Street and Indian School. By the way, they put me at the table on that deal.
The following year, we added a second campus for junior high and high school.
We had the lower grades in the old Knights of Columbus facility, and then junior high moving into high school into this other church facility. We would use City of Scottsdale Parks as a place to go practice basketball.
Due to our continued growth, in 1974, we moved to a new campus on 32nd Street and Mountain View.
Bigger school there had been built to be a school. It was a two-wing school that had been a public school.
Well, that building was in tatters. The roof leaked. I mean, it had everything broken down that you can even think of. But enrollment kept going up. And then we just said, Lord, something has to happen.
We never knew more than one step ahead.
And often when we ran into a difficult decision on the board, we prayed about it.
We had no idea when we moved there that it was ultimately going to be the right-of-way for a freeway. We started getting letters from the state saying, I think we're going to put a freeway through this area, we're not sure yet. And that triggered years of ideas, possibilities, and a lot of angst on what are we going to do as a school.
It came to our attention that there's a piece on Shea and 42nd Street that ADOT had bought and was going to auction off. Nobody bid. Finally, I said, I'll start with the minimum bid. Nobody else bid. So that's how we got that piece of land. I came home one day, and there was a bunch of picketers in front of my house. And it said, Stave and SCA, stay away from Shea.
Everybody didn't have it figured out long term. They were just willing to take that one step at a time.
SCA board and families went down at the hearing, and we were turned down.
At certain points, they were out of ideas.
We traded that piece for another piece, and then we traded that piece.
We had a site at 28th Street in Thunderbird, 40-acre site, beautiful view of the valley. That's where we were doing most of our planning, where we were going to put our replacement school. But two things were happening is we really didn't have the resources. The offer from ADOT wasn't enough to even put in the site improvements, and the economy was starting to wane.
We just spent a lot of time on our knees saying, Lord, if you don't do this, we can't.
We received a call from Arizona Department of Transportation, and they had just changed the law from where right-of-way is just making you an offer to schools like Scottsdale Christian Academy qualify for what's called functional replacement.
It was a state requirement that you bring them up to code. Well, we were a long way from code at that old building over on Mountain View. That's what they did. They built this school for us, $9.5 million for this school.
In the summer of 1991, we moved into our current home in North Phoenix on Tatum and Tacoma.
We've been here since then, and I still feel like it's a brand new campus because just the new buildings and newer buildings that have been built since.
Over our first 50 years, we have not only continuously exceeded general education standards, we have taught academics as God intended, from a biblical perspective.
It was amazing because every class and lecture that I had here, I got to see God through that while not only growing my mind, but growing my heart as well.
One of the amazing things we do here that's really part of our culture and will always be is our mission trips. We close our high school campus for a week, and every single one of our students travels somewhere in the world, prepares them to understand the importance of service and spreading the word.
It's not about beating people over the head with the gospel, but living out the faith that's inside of you.
A number of students have come back over the years and they talk about how important their faith is and how SCA was used to really build them up.
There's something different here. This isn't just a school going through the motions, churning out kids and academics. Really our goal here is to just keep doing Jesus' work, keep planting seeds for kids, and letting God do His work through these buildings and through the people that we have here.
As we celebrate our 50th year, we are confident that our journey with God has only just begun. Find out how you can become a part of SCA's story by visiting scarizona.org.
I'm excited to see where God will lead Scottsdale Christian Academy in the next 50 years.